Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. It's Andy King, and I'm joined by Matt Hayes. We are the co-founders of Email Love, and today we are walking you through how to design an email in Figma and export it to Salesforce Marketing Cloud with one click. So let's just go to the next slide. So if you don't know us, we run emaillove.com. It is an email inspiration website. So hopefully you are signed up to our newsletter and you use it for all your email inspiration. We also build a Figma plugin, which we are going to show you today. And we also interview our favorite email marketers. Okay, so that's us in a nutshell. For the agenda, we are going to look at the traditional email production process and why we think it is currently broken and how we can fix it. We'll talk about the new way to collaborate, design, and build emails for Salesforce. Talk about why smart brands are switching to Email Love, and then we will jump into Figma, where I will design an email and then export it to my test Salesforce Marketing Cloud account. And just to clarify, we have an integration with Salesforce Marketing Cloud, which is the old ExactTarget product. Don't currently have Pardot, but I do have that on our radar. So just wanted to clarify that for any Pardot or Pardot users out there who are wondering. Okay, so let's look at the email production, the traditional email production process. Don't know why this image is broken. But anyway, the traditional process is the designer receives a brief from the marketing team. So the marketers are, putting together the offer, the headlines, what they want to say in the email. They hand that brief off to the designer, who then mocks up the design, usually in Figma. It could be in Photoshop or Adobe XD or another package, but these days Figma is probably at least one of the top one or two platforms for designing emails. The team collaborates in Figma, usually adding comments, getting the design to look just right. When they're happy with it, they hand it off to a marketer or a developer who has to rebuild the email in the Marketing Cloud content builder or code the email in HTML. And so coding, obviously, that takes time. You have to figure out how to replicate the design in the HTML, or you can spend many hours rebuilding the design in the drag and drop content builder inside of Salesforce Marketing Cloud. And this obviously adds time to the email production process. It's usually quite hard to get the email looking exactly how you want it inside of a drag and drop tool or even in email HTML, unless you have a very good coder. And then eventually you settle on the design in the drag and drop tool or an HTML and you send it, but no one's really happy with the process and it took far too long. And so this is the process that we are going to fix with the Email Love Figma plugin. Okay, so hopefully that resonates. I think in summary, the problems with the current production process are slow turnaround times. Designers don't necessarily want to spend hours and hours on emails as well. They usually have other tasks, and so that can be a bottleneck. Developers don't want to code emails, so that can also be a bottleneck. Usually they are doing other things, and so getting resources to build and code these emails quite often takes extra time. Templates look different in real life than they do in Figma. Overall time to deployment ends up taking days or even weeks. I think Litmus did a study where they said the average time to deployment was 2 or 3 weeks, which seems crazy. And then the other problem with this process is it's hard to scale across platforms. If you're building an email for Salesforce Marketing Cloud, you might also have HubSpot or Marketo or a transactional tool like Postmark, you can't easily port those emails between platforms. And so it makes it hard to scale across your entire marketing stack. And so we have built the Email Love Figma plugin. The way it works is you have an email design system in Figma. We have one out of the box. It's called the Ultimate Email Design System. You can duplicate this in your own Figma account and you can customize it, or you can talk to us, and we do have a service, an enterprise plan where we do it for you. You combine that design system with the Email Love Figma plugin. This is where you can save your templates, save your components, and generate on-brand emails in minutes. I'll show you how that works. And then as part of the plugin, we have an integration directly into your Salesforce Marketing Cloud account. Again, I'll show you just how easy that is to set up. I set it up just before this webinar. So it takes a few minutes to grab the correct API keys. But once you've done that, you can export your designs to Salesforce with one click. Okay, in terms of why this is a better process and why Salesforce customers are moving to Email Love and Figma. Figma really enables the design system and I'd say it's the most efficient way to build an email because you already have a set of components that are pre-approved by the design team. And so the marketer can use these components kind of like Lego blocks to build their email, almost like a drag and drop tool, but inside of Figma. And so the design team controls the branding, the look of the components. The marketers then add their content, add their images, stack these content blocks on top of each other, and they create a visually attractive email design in minutes. The more technical marketers can also add AMPscript, handlebars, liquid, whatever templating language you're using for dynamic content. That is all added directly in Figma as well. So you can visualize your dynamic content. You can also collaborate with your entire team. Typically, teams are already collaborating in Figma, and so this has become kind of the central hub and place where you are already collaborating on your email content and design. And so it makes sense to build your emails with Email Love because then you can skip that last step of the process where you have to rebuild the Figma design inside of the drag and drop tool or Figma. And then lastly, as I kind of touched on before, it integrates with more than just Salesforce Marketing Cloud. Whatever you're using in your marketing tool stack, we can export to that platform as well. In terms of why Figma, in my opinion, it's by far the best tool for designing websites as well as emails. Basically, I would design everything inside of Figma, and more design teams have adopted it. Primarily because it's a very scalable product. If you think about back in the day, people were using Photoshop to design these assets. Photoshop was never built as a tool for designing emails or websites or any web collateral. It was designed to edit photos. And so it was the wrong tool being used in the wrong way. Figma was built from the ground up to design websites and web native assets. And so it has version control. It has a scalable architecture that allows you to create these components, variants, add properties to them, and scalably edit components across all of your designs. A good example is you could have a component for your header with multiple variants, and a variant could be different colors or different logo options. You can edit the master component in one place and have that update across everywhere that you've used that component. And so that's one reason I love using Figma. The other thing is it has a very rich plugin ecosystem. I would say it rivals, rivals WordPress for the breadth and the number of plugins that it offers, and Email Love is obviously part of that ecosystem. Okay, so let's just touch on one thing. Email Love may not be a good fit for you if you don't already use Figma. So we don't typically sell it or speak to people who are trying to build emails with the drag and drop tool or with Photoshop. If you love Photoshop, okay, that's fine. We are really talking primarily to Figma users. Typically, our customers already know Figma quite well. We also want to be upfront. It does require some work to build the design system. So we do help a lot of our clients with that. And obviously we provide training and many tutorials on how to build your own design systems. It may not be a good fit also if you're only doing image-based emails. So if you are just creating an image and then slicing it up and sending that to your audience, you're kind of not getting the benefit of the Email Love Figma plugin. Our plugin is built to create best practice HTML-based emails. And so, there's not a real advantage if you're just doing image slices. And so, yeah, we want to help you make a best practice, accessible and responsive email. So yeah, if you don't value those things, probably not a good fit for you. But if you are doing the best practices, if you are trying to do HTML text and create more accessible emails, then yes, continue watching. This is going to be interesting for you. Okay, that was a lot of me talking. Matt, are there any questions at this point?
No, not at this point. So if anyone does have any, please put them in the chat and I can wait till there's a gap, or I can interrupt Andy and he can get them answered.
Yeah, we can make this interactive. I'm happy to answer questions as we go along. So I think at this point, let's jump into Figma and show you how this thing actually works. So I'm just going to share my Figma. Okay. Let's just make this a little bit bigger. So here is an email design. This is just a screenshot that I pulled from emaillove.com. So it's an email from Turo, which is like a car rental service. So here is the email. This is actually the mobile. So we'll give this a 2-up kind of treatment in the actual design. But yeah, we are going to rebuild this email and show you just how easy that is. So this is Figma, and then we have the Email Love Figma plugin right here. It's this little box that lives inside of your Figma account. And so the first thing that we need to do is we need to create a frame for our email. So here is my frame. This is basically the container for the content of your email. And the name of the frame is what gets merged into Salesforce Marketing Cloud. So make sure that you give this a good name. So because this is going to be the name of the template in Salesforce. Okay, so we have over 100 different components inside of the plugin. So there's images, there's single column content, hero sections, headers, and you can also save your own customized components in here as well. So if I go to the headers, I could save a custom header for Turo in here if I wanted to. What I would typically do to approach this email is I'm going to add generic content that matches the layouts that I see inside of this newsletter. And then I'm going to customize those. And so the top section is actually an image. So this is an image for the logo. This is an image, and then this is HTML text. So what I'm going to do is go to the image section of the plugin. We have a few different image options, as you can see here. But I'm just going to add a few different image components. And then I'm going to go into single column and just find an option that has an icon and then some text underneath it. So as you can see here, we do cover most here's a good option here. And because the way that Figma works is we generate a master or like a parent component. So you can see here it's purple. It has this diamond icon. So what it's generating is a parent component. But what I can do is I can select this component and I can copy it. And it creates child components. So any changes I make to this top component will reflect automatically in the child component. So this is more of a Figma capability, but it's worth understanding how that works. And then I'm going to add a 2-column section for the images. By the way, we host all the images, so any images that you upload into your design, when you export those to Salesforce, they are automatically hosted on our image servers, so you don't need to worry about exporting PNGs and JPEGs and trying to rehost those, because typically that's going to add time. You don't want to deal with that. Okay, so let's find, I think this is a good option here. So again, I'm going to add one of them, and then I'm going to just copy the parent component so that I can style it a little bit. And then we have a button and a footer. So I'm just going to, I think we have a button component right here. And then for the footer, we have this build your own feature. The footer is quite basic. It's really just some text, social icons, and then some more text. And so this build your own feature here inside of the plugin allows you to add empty containers and then fill those containers with text, images, social icons, buttons, tables, even code blocks. And so I'm going to add some text and then social icons and then more text. And we will, when we get to the bottom, we will style this so that it looks like this. Okay. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is update the images. So I'm just going to select the image, and then on the right-hand side, I'm going to find my logo. And then I'm going to basically set this to fit. And this is more of a Figma feature. You can crop the image, you can set it to fill the space, or tile the image. There's various kind of options there. Same thing for this hero section. I can just grab that, make sure it fits the space. I typically set the images to fill, so it fills the entire table that it's contained in. Okay, so that's the first. That's very simple. It's very easy. Those are the first 2 sections. By the way, if I want to link these, I would simply select the image, go to the Properties tab, and I can add the image URL. I can add my alt text, or I can even override the image. So if I'm using a personalization tool like Movable Ink or Nifty Images, I can merge those personalized URLs in here to customize the content for each recipient. Okay, so now we want to move on to this more HTML-based section, and I will zoom in here so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to replace the email love logo with the icons that we receive. And you can see as I make a change to this top component, it'll automatically reflect in the child components. So I'm just going to add some additional text. We use a structure called MJML for the actual like layer structure you see on the left-hand side here. So it's pretty simple. It's basically a wrapper, which is the table that contains the contents, a section, which is the row. You have a column inside the section, and then the column contains your images, your text, and your buttons. And you can actually select these frames that contain the text, images, and buttons, and you can copy them as many times as you want, or reorder them. So I could select this text, move it up and down. Okay, and I'm just going to copy the text over from emaillove.com, and we will style it so it looks a little bit more like the actual email. So we work with Figma's typography. So I'm just going to probably take this font down a notch, make it a regular font, update the color of the section. So again, this is really just using all of Figma's tools to customize how the email looks, and designers love it for this reason. So designers typically they kind of already know, what they're doing when it comes to customizing these designs. They can also use auto layout. So that's this panel over here to get granular control over the padding and kind of the spacing between all the sections. So I can easily kind of adjust the spacing around a container. You can see here, I might want to increase that a little bit more. And then I might want to add some padding above this text container. So I'm just going to increase that to 10. And if we zoom out a little bit, you can see it's starting to look a little bit more like the design on the left-hand side. We also work with Figma's typography libraries, so you can actually save your font styles in here. So I could turn this into like an H1 or an H2 font if I wanted to. I'm just going to increase the font size a little bit. And then what I could do is I could actually click on the little plus icon here, call this my H1. And then again, this is very scalable because I can apply this H1 to all of my emails. And if I ever want to change the H1, I can do that in one place and have it update across all of my templates in Figma. Let's just increase the line height here a little bit. Okay. So I think this is looking pretty good. So this is the parent component, and then when I update these components underneath it, these are child components. And so I'm really just updating the content in these. So you can see as I update this component, the top one doesn't change. And what I would suggest is you get your design team to create and kind of manage these master components, and then using the Figma asset library, you enable the marketing team to actually use them, and just the marketers are really just using these as content blocks. They're moving things around. They're updating the images, adding their copy, adding the links, things like that. Okay, let's just update this last icon. Okay, so we are done with that section. I think I want to decrease the amount of padding around here. So I'm just going to decrease the padding at the top. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Next, we need to add this section down here, and I'm just going to replace the images. Okay, and then we can apply some styling because they have rounded corners. What's nice is you don't need to, if you have images with rounded corners, you can do that directly in Figma, and we will apply that to the code of the email. You don't need to add corner radius manually into your images. So I'm going to add a 20 pixel, actually that's too much. Let's add a 15 pixel corner radius to these images here. And then let's update the background color. Okay, so I think this is a good point to preview the message. Let's just make sure it looks good. And you can do that directly in the Figma plugin. So you simply select the frame of the email that you want to preview. You click on the preview button, and then you can see it on a desktop. You can also preview it on various different screen sizes. So an iPhone. And one thing you may notice is it keeps you're designing for desktop, but you can also customize it for mobile. And so for this section here, for this text, I think the padding is too much on mobile. And so what you can do is you can click on this little settings icon here inside of the preview. You can go to mobile styles, and then you can select the section that you want to customize. And then you can basically take the padding down. You can apply border radius. You could select some text and change the font size on mobile. You can hide things on desktop or hide them on mobile as well. And so it is very customizable. You can see here that removes the padding that we were adding on desktop and adjusts it for mobile. Okay, so this is looking pretty good. We can also view it in dark mode. So if you just click on the little dark mode icon here, you can see how it's going to render, and we can somewhat control how it looks in dark mode, but only on iOS Apple devices. You can't control it in Outlook, Gmail, Yahoo. They kind of do their own thing when it comes to dark mode, but in Apple devices, we can overwrite the dark mode styles. Okay, so we are almost finished with this design. We just need to add our button CTA here. So obviously the button is styled a little bit differently. It has a black color. The corner radius isn't quite as aggressive as what I have. And let's just zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so just going to update the color of this section as well. For the buttons, you would simply select the button and then go into the Properties tab. And again, similar to the images, you can add your URL in here as well. Okay, so for the footer, this looks not very good right now, but you'll see that we can easily style this to make it look similar. And so what we can do is we could select the column that contains the content, and I'm going to use this gap feature to control the amount of space between those elements. And you can increase or decrease that as you want, but it just keeps everything consistent. I'm also going to add some padding around the entire container. I'm going to update the background color, and I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. For the unsubscribe, the way that the unsubscribe works is we link to unsubscribe.com, not a real website, but we look to unsubscribe.com. We then replace that URL with the Salesforce Marketing Cloud unsubscribe token. And so the merge tag for the Salesforce unsubscribe will be automatically merged in to this unsubscribe link at the bottom. Okay. Okay. So, if you did have AMPscript or some kind of dynamic content, we do have a code component. So you could merge in snippets or whatever code you want in here. So it could be a footer snippet or basically whatever code you want can be merged in here. It could also be like if-else statements. You can kind of put this wherever you want. You can kind of wrap it around or duplicate it. And so again, instead of adding all of your dynamic content directly to the HTML, you can do it visually inside of Figma. And our customers are typically adding all sorts of dynamic content into these code blocks. It really just merges in whatever you add into this container into the raw email HTML that gets exported. Okay, so for now, I'm going to just remove them, but just know that if you do use AMPscript, you can easily put that into the design as well. Okay, so that is basically how you build an email. I think we did that in maybe 10, 15 minutes. So it's a pretty quick process once you understand how it works. If you're already familiar with Figma, this is probably going to be pretty easy for you to build. So again, it's looking good. I can also preview how big the email is. So this email is 58 kilobytes. If it gets to over 102, this turns red and just tells you that your email will likely get clipped in Gmail. So just keep an eye out for that if you have a longer email. But I think at this point we are ready to export. And so if we click on the export button, we have a few different options at the top. So we have all of our integrations with Klaviyo, Braze, HubSpot, Iterable, but you can see here in the middle, we have Salesforce Marketing Cloud. You can save as many API keys in here as you want. So I've saved one, but if I change it, what we require is the Salesforce REST base URL, your client ID, and your client secret. And then you give your Salesforce API key a name, and then you set the API key, and it will save it inside of the plugin for you. So I've saved one in here right now. I can select it. And so this is now connected to my Salesforce account. You can see here the images are going to be hosted by default. And you can also see there's a few Salesforce specific options here as well. So if you want to add a slot for a drag and drop piece of content, we can apply that to the code of the email. We can apply any aliases. I believe aliases are added to the links of your email, so you can see more easily what people are clicking on. We can also add the conversion tracking tag and the impression tags, which shows you how many people are viewing each section of the email. So these are not available in every integration we have. We've added these specifically for Salesforce because they have that available in their API. Okay, so I'm going to select those just so you can see what happens when we export it. But this is going to export this email as a responsive HTML email using MJML to generate that code. So it's going to look good in Outlook, Yahoo, Gmail, iPhones, Android devices. Okay, so let's click on the export button. Should take a few seconds, and you can see here it says it's successfully exported. And so at this point, we are going to switch screen and log in to Salesforce, which is conveniently logged me out. So just give me a second to log back in. Okay. Any questions yet, Matt?
No questions yet, no. But if anyone has any, do ask.
Okay, so let's switch screen and show you what this looks like inside of Salesforce. Okay, so this hopefully looks familiar to all of you on the call. This is my test Salesforce Marketing Cloud account, and the emails will be uploaded into the email studio. And so if we go into the email studio, typically in the content tab is where you'll find your templates. You can see here the email that I added for Turo has been added to the very top. We do also append the date and a unique ID of when it was uploaded. So if we go into this, you can see here we've applied the impression tags around each section of the email. We've applied the alias tags to any URLs in the email. And this has basically been uploaded as a HTML template. So if we edit it, it's using the HTML editor. So we do have the content block, so the slot where you can add some drag and drop content, but our customers are typically doing everything in Figma, and then they're just exporting the HTML to Salesforce. And so if you want to make a change to this, you could make it directly in the HTML if you're comfortable doing that. Alternatively, I would suggest going back into Figma, making your update there. That's kind of the master template, and then re-exporting it to Salesforce, and it will update your existing template so that you don't need to have duplicate templates in there as well. Just looking at what it's doing here, just trying to find some links. Okay, so yeah, so it's got conversion tracking. It's got you can see here it's got an alias. So that's what the alias tag is doing. So it's actually giving each link its own alias with a name, so that when you are looking at the reporting, you can see a more friendly list of what people clicked on in those reports. And then you can obviously see the impression tracking wrapped around each section. It does say MJ wrapper for each section because I didn't rename my components in Figma, but you can rename this to be whatever you want. So instead of it saying MJ wrapper section for the impressions, you could call it hero section, header, footer, single column, whatever makes sense to you. Okay, and that is pretty much it. You can then use this with your campaigns, your journeys, just as you normally would. Obviously, you can preview and test it with Litmus inside of your Salesforce account if you want. And as I said, if you do want to apply AMPscript, you will need to test that inside of Salesforce. So the AMPscript won't pull through directly into Figma, but it'll start working once you've exported it to Salesforce.
Hey, Andy. Two questions have come in.
Sure.
First one is, does it come over to Salesforce as an email template or an email message?
Then I believe it's a template. So basically, it's a very Salesforce. Yeah, you can see here. From my understanding, it's a template, but my understanding of Salesforce Marketing Cloud might not be as good as your understanding. My understanding is it's being exported to this content section inside the email studio as a template, and it's not being exported as a campaign. So it's not yet associated with a campaign or a journey. You would need to go into the journey builder or the campaign builder to actually use it.
Right. It looks like it's coming over as either a template or some kind of content that you then need to create an email message from.
Yeah, it's not associated. So right now, this Turo email is not associated with any existing campaigns or journeys inside of Email Studio. You need to, but it's available for you to use. So you can obviously, select it when you go to build your campaign.
Cool. And then another question. Is there actually two questions from the same person. Is there a workaround for the Gmail Outlook dark mode thing that you mentioned before. And then the second question is, how does interactivity work outside of Movable Ink? We have some coded elements within our email builds. So how do we put those in the plugin?
Yes, so we have the code component where you can add interactive elements. We actually have a customer that uses us with Zembula, which is they have some interactive like calendar type functionality, and they are just building that directly in Zembula and then copying the code into um, into Figma actually. So it's all the dynamic content, everything is done directly in Figma through the code component. So what that is, if I go back here and select the template, that is basically this code section here. So this could be whatever you want it to be. So it could be an if-else statement. It could be a dynamic piece of content. Yeah, I would suggest using this for any dynamic content. Sorry, what was the other part of that question, Matt, about movable ink?
Yeah, I think it's answering the same. Oh, that was the main part of the question around the kind of custom code, really. So coded elements was coming through in the question.
Yeah,
It's
any like
custom code stuff.
AMPscript or you could put interactive stuff. You'd need to know what you're doing. We're just going to merge in whatever you put into this code section. We're going to merge in. We aren't necessarily responsible or know how that's going to render. So that would be on you to test and make sure that works. But whatever you put in here, we will merge into the HTML.
Yeah.
And in my experience, it has you can get it working. I'd say most of our Salesforce customers are merging in some kind of code into their templates.
Yeah. Cool. And then the first question was actually around the dark mode side of
Oh,
things.
yeah.
Is it a workaround for Gmail and Outlook? And I think that's more of a kind of strategic thing around how you want to kind of create the email, right?
There's nothing that we can do. It's not an email love thing. This is a Gmail, Yahoo, Outlook thing, and no email builder that I've seen, at least. Please prove me wrong. I would love to see a workaround where you can overwrite the dark mode styles in those email clients, but from my understanding, it's not possible. Basically, Gmail will take your colors and invert them, and so a kind of like this beige color will turn brown, I think. I'm just going to show Inbox Monster. This is what we use for previews. So you can see how this email is actually rendering in different devices in both dark mode and light mode. And if we go down to Gmail, we can probably have a look at what it's doing to this beige color. Yeah, here's an Outlook example, right? So this is Outlook 365. So it's kind of it's not turning it completely black. It's kind of making this beige dark. And what I'm saying is it's going to invert the color. There's no way for you to overwrite what Outlook does in this scenario. Personally, I think this looks fine. I think people who are using dark mode kind of expect their emails to look dark. And so, like I said, you can overwrite this for Apple devices, but I personally, if I'm using dark mode, I want the email to look dark and have a black background with white text, typically. But you can see here the rendering is really good across email clients. Even some of the older Windows devices. Here's like Windows 2022. It does do Windows will do some things to our code, so it'll remove rounded corners from images and from buttons. But
yeah,
generally, we have because we're using MJML. We have very good rendering across all the different email clients, which is kind of the goal. Like if we could only render well in Gmail and iPhone, it would be kind of pointless. We want to create emails that look good everywhere.
Yeah. And then on the dark mode question, another question around dark mode is, can we swap images on dark mode? I don't think you can you? Generally.
You can.
Am I wrong?
We do.
Okay.
We do have that feature, but it doesn't work everywhere. so
Ah,
I advise you
typical.
to not use it. It works on Apple. Apple has probably the best support for these types of features. And so the key use case for this is like, I want to switch my logo, like my header logo, and I want to have one version for light mode and a different version for dark mode. And so we can do that, but in Gmail, it'll sometimes show both logos. And that's just Gmail not playing nice with the HTML. And so I would advise you to put like a light background color on your logo so that you can still see it in dark mode. So I do that with the Email Love newsletter. So like, if I can show you what I mean, if I go back into Figma. So here's our latest newsletter, and if I go into the preview and show you what it looks like in dark mode, you can see here I put a gray kind of rounded corner background so you can easily see it. And this is actually what Apple does as well. So it's just like the simplest, lightest weight, easiest way to make your logo stand out or your images stand out in dark mode and light mode.
Okay. I know we're coming to the end, or we're over the end, but did have one question. If we had time, is can you show us what building a couple of custom components and saving them look like within the plugin?
Yes. So let's just take a really simple example. So you actually want to take the component out of your template, and I would organize it like this. So I would organize it like our ultimate email design system, where you have a page for your pre-headers, a page for your header sections, your footers. And what's nice is you can rename these. So just call this our footer section. You can go to the footer section of the plugin, and you can then click on the add custom component, and it will save that footer inside of the plugin. It will also automatically, you can see it's right there. It will also be available inside of the Figma asset library. And so if I go into assets at the top left here, you can see here, I can now access my footer and I can generate a child version of that footer. And just to show you why this is powerful is if I ever change my colors, I can do it in one place on this master component and have it update everywhere. And so there's kind of two different ways to do it. It's either saving it inside of the plugin or using the Figma component library to kind of generate those components.
Great. I think that's it. That was all the questions we had.
Excellent. Well, if you do have any more questions that come up, or if you're watching the recording, please do feel free to give us some feedback. Feel free to email us with any other questions, or we can also set up some time for one-on-one demos or chats if you have more questions. We also have a public Discord group and community for plugin users, and you are welcome to join that. So I'll let you go. I appreciate all of you for joining, and I hope you have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.